those acquisitions fell through because of where we were in 2023. And then I was running out of time. I was going to run out of cash. Had to close.
What emotions did you experience through all that?
All of them. Oh, I still am. I've been in a grief state all along, honestly. There wasn't a way. We couldn't find a way.
The world is obsessed with fast-track success. It's easy to think that people become successful overnight. But let's face it, more often than not, what we see on social media is total BS. I'm here to look past the perception of perfect success and focus on life's detours, perceived mistakes, and even wrong choices, and understand the real road traveled up the career ladder. After all, we're all effing up. Charlie Gray has led the people operations of technology, media, and healthcare companies for over 25 years. He was instrumental in managing the growth of Google advertising sales team and helped to develop the company's people operations framework. After providing HR and operations leadership at other startups, including RecycleBank and Patch, Charlie found and led Gray Scalable, New York City's market-leading consultancy for growing tech startups, providing embedded recruiting, executive search, interim HR, and compensation consulting to 200 plus early to mid-stage companies. Although Charlie closed Gray Scalable in 2023, he continues to provide fractional and advisory consulting services to clients. Charlie holds 2 degrees from the State University of New York at Buffalo in music performance and English literature, and enjoys skiing, tennis, good food, good company, music, and travel. Charlie, welcome. It's been over a decade of knowing each other, but now I've got you on the podcast. I asked you a while ago, you said no, and I said, I'll be chasing you. And then you came to me and said, hey, let's do the thing. So I'm pumped to have you here. Thank you for joining.
I'm super happy to be here. Thanks.
Let's begin by having you inform the audience on what your career looks like today.
Currently.
Currently is a better word. Thank you.
I'm in a state of flux. I closed the business that I'd been running for the past 11 years. So trying different things. But right now I'm doing fractional interim work in HR leadership or talent leadership, which is in many ways what I've done for decades. Just working with some new partners and working independently as just me, not a team, which is cool.
Yeah.
Yep.
It didn't sound the most convincing. We'll get into that. I'm genuinely fascinated in how people work and learning about their past and seeing how it informed their future, their present. And so I like to ask about the guest's childhood in a way to see if there's anything that you can really point to. Maybe it's an event, maybe it's a theme, something you were taught by your family. When you look back, is there something that kind of just floods in immediately from your recall that ties into your work ethic, your career in a way?
I was a troubled teen, you might say. Got in a lot of trouble.
Like drugs and alcohol, getting arrested. What are we talking about?
All of the above.
Yeah. All of the above.
Yeah. People in my neighborhood or family back then would not have expected me to have done the things I've done in my life, nor did I, for that matter. I did not envision a professional career for myself.
Did you have the drive then that you have now?
I don't know. I certainly wasn't driven in the same way. I wasn't trying to accomplish anything on the business side of things. I was into music. I was into doing things socially with friends, and there was actually worked from very young. I had a big paper route when I was 13, and I
mean, there it is. Yeah.
Worked at a nursing home like I did. I always worked from early on, and I always took on as much as I could. I wanted to make money. So I guess I always had that. I had that drive that I wanted to make money.
And what would you say was the impetus for you getting into trouble?
Some people just have that kind of teenage phase where you just got to try all the things and see which ones work and which ones don't. I did go through that. My parents divorced when I was in, I don't know what, 5th, 6th grade. I think that has an influence on a person's kind of the next several years. I went through that and
Mm.
came out okay.
As a teenager, did you feel influenced or pressured to march forward with your life?
No, not really, because I didn't have a high expectation for my career or my future, and nor did my family. They didn't press me. They didn't push me in any particular way. I remember actually when I was 16, that I told my parents that I was going to go to college, and they were surprised. They were happy.
Pleasantly.
They were
Yeah.
happy to hear
Mm.
it.
Yeah.
They weren't.
Were
They didn't.
they like, "Oh, we'll see what happens when it comes time?"
Yeah, I'm not. Oh, exactly. And they probably figured, okay, all right, we'll see. But I did.
And why the revelation? What did you envision yourself doing post college?
I thought I would be an engineer. I had an interest in science, which I now understand does not translate to an aptitude for science. That wasn't the path for me, and I realized it 1 year in at college. But college was definitely for me, just not engineering. So
Why would you say college was for you? What?
it opens up the world like it does for many people. Instead of just being in my neighborhood or my town or my
Mm.
family, I was now meeting all sorts of different people, learning different things, and also living on my own. Everything about it felt right and good, except for the courses I was taking.
And so I'm going to use air quotes here. Were you still a troubled youth while you were at college, or did some of that burn off?
No, it burned off. Like, I had a lot of fun in college, of course.
Of course, as you
But
should. Yeah.
yeah, I was a good student.
Mm. What happened post college?
I got my very first job out of college by going to a placement agency in Boston, and they were basically a sales placement agency. So I figured I'll get a sales job. I can do that.
Yeah.
And they did not find me a sales job, but they hired me. The bar was low. So I went in for one interview and they said, you should do this. And the next thing I knew, I had a job as a sales recruiter.
And how did you find work?
There was a bunch of challenges for a few years there. That it was like figuring out a career, and agency recruitment in the kind of places I was working was not great. It was not rewarding. It was not fun. It was just hard.
Yeah.
But I learned what it was. Like, I knew how recruiting worked. I knew how it was being practiced by some people and could see some way to seeing how it could be done better by other people. So I went through 3, maybe 4 different companies until I got to one that felt good, where I could actually stay for a while and learn some more, which I did.
And what is the period of time you think where you went through these 3 or 4 companies?
The late 80s.
But I mean, like a 10-year span, 5-year span.
No, more like 3, 2 or
Mm.
3. Yeah.
How did that feel?
I was around 20. So it felt fine. I didn't have anything else to compare it to. Like, I was now truly an adult on my own and had a regular job. Didn't particularly like the job, but I was doing it. So it felt fine as far as I knew.
Was there a stigma, though, with you job hopping?
Remember,
Yeah.
it's not that unusual in that role. If you're like a contingency agency recruiter, that's not at all
That's helpful context.
uncommon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm. Okay. So that period of time isn't listed on LinkedIn, which is fair. That's not a judgment statement. Just brings me to what is there. And that is you joined Prism Rehab Systems as director of recruitment.
Yeah, there's another few years actually between there where I found my way to healthcare recruiting,
Mm.
which had more interest to me. It was better. Like, the work I was doing was better. The companies I was working for were better. And I recruited traveling nurses for a couple of years, and then
Oh, yeah.
traveled therapists like PT and OT
Oh, wow.
around the country. That's where I met my wife, actually, at that agency where we both worked. So it was a much more gratifying recruiting role, and worked with a lot of people that really liked, some that I still know. But the job that I guess starts my resume on LinkedIn is when I got hired to be the recruiting manager at a rehab chain. My work as recruiting therapists in the country basically gave me that credibility to go to a company that was trying to bring their recruiting fully in-house. It was my first like real serious job. Like, I was a manager of a team. I was there to build something.
And how long is this after graduation?
8 years.
Did you feel successful?
Yes, I was successful.
Okay.
We did really well. The company did great. I embraced that role. It was great. I had a great manager. I did that job for 4 years.
Why did you leave?
It wasn't so much, I'm going to make this a shorter story. The business I was in changed, but instead of being a company that was growing super fast, we put the brakes on and had to start to downsize. It was not a time to have a big recruiting team. So it was the nature of that sector that it was time to do something else.
You joined Ziff Davis Publishing. Talk to me about that.
Davis, yeah, a great company. That was the new thing I was looking for. Ziff Davis, for people who are like under 30, this doesn't make any sense. They publish computer magazines. Like, try to visualize a computer magazine now if you haven't seen one. What does that mean?
I immediately saw an Apple computer that no one younger than us would even know what that looks like. Yeah.
Yeah. But they were hugely successful. Some of their magazines were like 3 or 4 inches thick with ads from computer companies. They did phenomenally well. I joined them when they were a fast growing company. They had just gotten a new investor. They were spinning off different businesses. They had Ziff Davis Publishing, who I worked for. There was also ZD TV, ZD Net, ZD Events.
Oh, wow.
They were really just doing everything they could. But at the same time, this was like 1999. They were growing like it was 1999. But the bad news is the next century's coming. And at some point there, it's okay, computer magazines?
Yeah.
Is this a thing? So after this kind of fast growth, they then started to go in different directions and shrink each one of those. And really, the company's still going in a smaller, much different way than it was then. But yes, the economics of it, the basic summary that I've made, there's something like this on LinkedIn, but I was the head of recruiting for the first year and a half that I was there. And during that time, the recruiting team brought in 700 people. Like, we hired 7 new people for the business. This is just for the part that I was in, the publishing group. And then over the next 18 months, we let go about 700 people. So it was like a net even.
You climbed the mountain and then quickly repelled.
Yeah, for me, it was huge because
Oh yeah, you learned all sides.
my career had been about recruiting up until then. And I'm good at recruiting. So that's what people wanted me to do. You want to do something where you're needed. So that wasn't needed at a point at Ziff Davis. What was needed was help in figuring out how to survive in a reduced environment. And you have to lay a bunch of people off, which is, I actually appreciated being able to learn that. And it's not like I enjoyed doing it, but I valued doing it because it's just so important to do it. Even now, you remember the stories in the past couple of years about the ridiculous things companies do?
Sure.
Tech companies who know, laying people off by email, doing that was just as important as hiring people. And so I focused on doing it well and making it as easy as possible for the people who had to go through it. That's actually the time period where I became, instead of just a recruiting manager, an HR manager.
I completely agree with what you're saying. It's anything in life, right? If you have a hard, difficult message to deliver, it's about the delivery, and you can really help a person along and yourself along by how you present what you have to deliver. And I don't know what happened the last couple of years with all the layoffs, and just people got sloppy and lazy, and it didn't matter. And it was really difficult to hear those stories, and people really felt it, and they'll feel it for a very long time. It affected them personally.
Yeah, it was shameful, really.
Yeah, truly. Okay, so your LinkedIn says help the company grow, help shrink the company.
That sums it up. Yeah.
So what happened post shrinkage? Yeah, post your own shrinkage.
That's right. I actually packaged myself out.
Yeah.
This is another thing, a benefit of being an HR manager is you can give yourself a severance package, which I did because there was only so much to do.
Thank you, Charlie. You've done great work. Be well.
Yeah, that's right. I shook my hand, So after that, I got a contract job at Google. That was how Google brought in recruiting and HR people at that time, was as contract first.
Google at that time was everything. A good time to get into Google, right?
A fantastic time, but it wasn't everything yet because people didn't know about it.
Yeah, skeptical too, probably because they didn't know about it.
Yeah, I remember when it was a woman I knew, a recruiter who told me about it. She said she lived in California, so she couldn't do it. It was a New York job. She said, there is a job in New York that you could probably do. It's for this company called Google. And I was like, I think I've heard of that company. There was so many good things about that period. We grew so much. When I joined, it was a few dozen people in New York. It's now 30,000. I don't know what the number is. So it was a huge opportunity. Google was magical in some ways, and it's a dream environment, especially if you're an engineer. But they were very, what's the word?
Elitist.
Elitist. Thank you. That is exactly the word. Like it was all about the engineers. It was 100% an engineering company. Like this is the best example I could possibly give. So they had an intranet, like a place where you could go and you would see the company directory of everybody who worked there and get news and all that kind of stuff. So in the company directory, and this is like a year or two in, I had been there for a year or two. It said under Charlie Gray in the directory, non-engineering, rest of world. That's how they explained who I was. It didn't have a job title. It didn't say New York even. It said non-engineering, rest of world. Now think about that for a minute.
Wow.
So if someone looks up Charlie Gray, like it wants to see who he is, what he does, what his purpose is at the company, they would just find out that he's not an engineer and he doesn't live in California. That's it. That's all they would find. Can you imagine?
No, I really can't. When we came to elitism, I was thinking compared to the rest of the world outside of Google, but
Right.
even within, it's the class system.
Yes, exactly. In a really extreme one. The elitism was also, everybody knows about Google's hiring based on GPAs and SAT scores and things like that, which is all true. There's that elitism that they did have. But yes, also internally they had these differentiations. So it was, if you were not an engineer, it was a different company to work for than if you were. It was still a great 6 years.
Did you all non-engineers talk about this quite a bit?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But it was good enough to keep going for 6 years.
It got better over time. That did change over time. So it was a long road. It was a tough road. I had a fantastic team working for me, doing both recruiting and HR, but it took years to build it. And it took a lot of pushing to convince people that I should hire these people and that this is why they're good. And so it was a lot of work to do things that could have been really quick and easy. Because the company, it overthought things and required steps that were unnecessary. Like you've heard the story about Google interviews or the general thing. They would sometimes interview people that have 20 interviews, like for real. People will go through 20 interviews, which is a terrible experience to go through 20 interviews. But as long as you get hired, you wind up being okay with it.
Yeah.
Imagine having 20 interviews and then not getting a job, which also happened.
Yeah, that's a blow.
Yeah, we all fixed that in Google recruitment over time so that we limited interviews and we stopped doing those things. But yeah, there was a lot of work done there that was unnecessary. It was like self-inflicted layers of work.
So why did you end up leaving?
So the person I worked for was Tim Armstrong, the head of advertising sales for Google. Officially, I did not report to him. I reported to people in Mountain View who ran recruiting and HR. Tim was my client, you might say, my internal client. But in many ways, he was the person I worked for. And he was a great leader. We did many things, the team that we both worked on building. And when he left the company, a few others left at the same time. I was one. The job would not have been the same without that internal client. And I didn't want to keep doing it. It was time for change.
Did you leave with something lined up?
There's also the fact that he didn't leave in a vacuum. people were leaving to do other things. A lot of people had a fairly good long run of 6, 7, 8, 10 years at
Sure.
Google. And so people were leaving to start their own companies or run companies. They were very sought after talent. So that was happening. In fact, that's what happened to Tim. Like, he got recruited by AOL, but other people were leaving too. And I was thinking about it myself. And because people would ask me advice, they would come to me to say, I'm going to start a company. We have this many people. How should we handle recruiting? How could we? So I thought there's a lot of people who would probably pay for my advice. I should start my own company myself and just start consulting. So that was in my mind to do that. And when Tim left, it triggered it to like, all right, let's go ahead and do it.
Mm.
Yeah.
So you consulted for a period of time, but that didn't last. Why?
It didn't. A couple of reasons. One is I didn't really have a plan. I just had this, maybe I should start a consulting company. Lots of people have that plan, right? I'm going to start a company, but really what it is, I'm a consultant until another job comes along. So it really means, and that's what it ended up meaning for me, because I didn't have a plan.
Yeah.
I did not have a vision for what that company would do and the need it would meet. I didn't have a proposition to really make there other than, hey, I'm available. What can I do for you? So I basically just put myself out there, and I had a couple of interesting consulting gigs, but then one of them was particularly good. You've heard of them.
I have. I know many people that were there.
Yeah. RecycleBank was a cool company, a great network of people, many of whom I still stay in regular contact with. It was a great consulting gig, but it quickly became a full-time consulting gig, and then pretty quickly became a job, because between myself and the couple of guys who ran the company, I thought I should just join it. So I did. That was the end of my first of 1.0 of
Consulting
business.
Your own company 1.0. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what were the adventures at RecycleBank like?
It didn't end up being that long. By the time I actually became an employee, it was only like a few more months, because they started to have some, I don't even know there were changes happening at the company. They were pivoting the business in some ways and downsizing the company. So there was,
This is just a theme for you.
it's not for everybody.
Yeah, it just seems a little more blatant, perhaps.
We haven't even covered it all yet.
I
Jeez.
know.
I do tend to jump into things that are exciting, but sometimes short-lived.
Did you leave just because it was downsizing? What was the thing that was like, I got to go?
No, they were going to be less focused on growth. They were really trying to operate within kind of new constraints. The things I was there to do were therefore also constrained. There was the role I had was not quite as meaningful as it was before. So Tim Armstrong, that I already mentioned, who I worked for at Google, at AOL, he wanted to supercharge his baby business, Patch, and reached out to me to help do that. Patch was the best job I ever had. I was like Robert Moses. I had all the power. Tim was the CEO of AOL, not just Patch. So he brought me in because they needed to make something like 1,500 hires in less than a year. It was like 8 months or something like that to meet this goal. They wanted to have 1,000 patches live and fully staffed by.
Sorry, what was Patch?
Patch is a network of local news sites. It is basically local news that's digital and that's set up to be economically scalable. It was a super ambitious growth plan that they had. It was like ridiculous. And Tim asked me, could you do this? Could you actually get these hires done in this period of time? And I said, I can. It would require a lot. He's okay. You can have anything you want. Like everyone at AOL is here to help you. And they can't say no to anything you ask for. Just make it happen. What a great job, right?
Yeah, my gosh, I can't imagine.
Yeah, it was a push. That was a heavy lift. That was a lot to do. We did it. It was fantastic. Like the celebration over accomplishing that was amazing. Then at that point, we had done this thing that we did nothing but focus on for months. Then we had to focus on the business plan, which was not an easy business to manage. The economics of it were actually very hard. There's a reason why there's not big networks of local news sites out there.
Right.
So it was really challenging to go from there. So yes, the nature of my role quickly changed to something else that was a lot more ambiguous in a way, and certainly less exciting. And yes, a bunch of us started to go do other things.
And you went to Buy With Me.
That's right. I almost forgot that one. Yes, I went to Buy With Me.
I noted it's a 3-month tenure, so I'm very curious. It was like you drove in, you drove out.
I know. I know. This was the period of time when Groupon was the hottest thing.
Yeah.
Remember?
Oh, I remember.
And
Yeah.
and by the way, I never used a single Groupon coupon, like never. Like the deals thing was like, really? This is a
Oh,
business?
not only did you not use it, but you didn't procure anything to use.
I had no interest
Because that was the whole thing, is a lot of people would procure and then they'd set it on a shelf and forget
Oh,
about it.
yeah, right, right. As you may recall, just like it was like the biggest thing for a little while there, it then rocketed to the bottom, like
Oh,
pretty.
yeah.
So,
Oh, yeah.
so that's when I got into it. People I respect advised me to take this job at Buy With Me because it was like number 2 in that space after Groupon, or 3, depending how you counted. And so it would be like a really smart thing to join that company. So I took the advice, I joined the company, although I had like really, truly zero interest in what the business was. It's really the only time I can think of that I actually did that. But it seemed like the right thing to do. But sure enough, the Groupon thing fell like a stone. The
Got it.
value of Buy With Me went down, and the round of funding that it had queued up to get, which was significant. And getting me on board was part of the plan to then spend that money to really grow the company, like another kind of patch thing.
Yeah.
But that funding did not come, and Buy With Me closed a month later, fully shut down.
So you were just getting your head above water, learning things, and then screech.
Screech, right.
Did you kind of sense that was happening on day one when you joined, or?
It wasn't happening. When I joined, they were in this period where Groupon was riding high. They were getting ready to get this round of funding and making plans about what the growth priorities would be. That was not. It really happened over the course of maybe a week. It went from top to bottom. And then they literally, without that funding, they had been expecting it for so long. They'd been spending money. Once it was clear that wasn't coming, they were going to run out of money pretty fast. So they had to just shut down.
Brutal. And how did that make you feel?
Jobless.
That's not exactly a feeling.
Said there is a bit of a pattern here. So I was just like, okay, what's next?
But you're pretty pragmatic about it.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. The next job gave me more of a trigger to rethink the model. Because as the next job was Tumblr, which was also very short. Just 5 months. I was there at Tumblr. Just 100% not a fit. Like it was not a good partnership.
Truly.
Yeah, it was wrong. And a month in, it was pretty clear to me that it was not right.
Did it take a month for you to figure that out?
It took a month or more, like a month or 2, to see that you go into this is the kind of company. Yeah, I was hired to basically be some type of change agent. Like I was supposed to improve things on some level. They never had an HR person before. So I was there with this kind of mission to make things better, smoother. I don't know.
Yeah, I've been in that role before.
Yeah, you've been there. So a couple months in, it was clear that I couldn't really do much. I couldn't really change much. I couldn't really affect much. I was just learning how things operated, which wasn't generally good.
As in, they said they wanted one thing, but truthfully, they weren't capable of change.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd even say that they said that. They just said they think they need this. And I filled in the blanks myself and said, okay, I'm pretty sure I know what I'm going to need to do. So I went in confident that this was something I could do. But a couple months in, I was like, I don't know if I can really accomplish much here. That kind of became clear to the guy I reported to, the 27-year-old founder, who just didn't have any use for the advice I was giving him. We were just not in the same place. So he let me go. He said, I don't know how to fire somebody at your level, so you'll have to tell me how I do this.
That's fantastic.
So yeah.
You're like, okay, let's put together a severance package. Here you go. This is what you're going to do.
There's a theme here, right? Yes. So that was.
At least he was honest. I have to respect that. That's pretty great.
We had a cordial, honest relationship. He was like, I'm not quite sure how to do this. You tell me. I'm like, you just did it. You did it fine. So let's talk about the details.
So I asked you, I can't even remember how I phrased it. Something like, did it really take a month for you to figure it out? And I don't mean to be belittling or whatever. It's just that I've started so many jobs and I loathe starting a new job now because I know that on day one, I'll get a feeling.
Mhm.
And I really hate this about myself. It's a flaw in me where I get that feeling and it's, oh crap, here we go. It's not going to work out. And then I'm talking myself into it. I'm like, no, you're not going to do this. It's going to be amazing. It's just going to take some time. And it never changes. And I think, is that because I couldn't get out of my own head? Or was that
Yeah.
just how it was going to go always? But it's every time it's played
Mm.
out that way. For instance, Olo, I never had that feeling. Day one, it was magic and it was
Mm.
magic. It was
Yep.
a great run. So just knowing myself, putting myself in your shoes, I'm like, wow, like you had a month of not knowing, like how blissful, and then it changed. Is that just because you're so optimistic and just better that
Yeah.
way?
Yeah, it's more that. It's more that. It's
Okay.
more that I
Are you a trusting individual
by the
too?
way, I don't know, you could say optimistic, you could say, cocky, like, I think overconfident maybe is the
I'm gonna crush this. This is gonna
yeah.
work.
Yeah, like, I can see, like I can recognize certain things that I think we should change, and I would just say, "Okay, that's on my list of things I'll have to change," assuming that I'll have the power to do that. But it takes a little bit more time to then realize, "Oh, nobody wants me to change those things."
Mhm.
Sure, I see them. I know they need to be fixed, but nobody else has any will or interest in doing that. That's when, okay, this doesn't make sense.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't if I would classify it that way, but just because I know you, I don't feel like I would ever describe you as a cocky individual, but we're our worst critics.
Yeah, overconfident maybe is the right thing.
I don't
I don't know. I don't know. But I
But you
did.
are also coming from a place of extreme experience and brought in to lead with that experience. So it makes sense that you would think that way. I don't feel like I have to justify it.
No, there was certainly the expectation was that the company was gonna, like, grow a lot faster, was gonna do a lot of big things, and was gonna build out its culture in different ways, but it that means different people can say that same thing and mean something very different by it, but
I
just
don't
was
know that I asked you how you felt after
after that.
after he fired you, but really you had to terminate yourself. Sorry, it's not
Um,
funny, but it's so funny.
yeah, learn from everything, and I certainly therefore learned a lot that couple of years, and one thing I definitely learned was that it might be better to be a consultant, not partly because it is inherently a short-term role, but I also felt like in some ways with some of those jobs, I could have been more impactful
Mhm.
if I had been a consultant. Sometimes you're better off
Agreed.
that way.
Agreed. No, I've learned that sometimes if you bring in a consultant, it comes with more clout. And the idea you already gave
Mm,
that wasn't flying, when you bring in that consultant and they give that same idea for some reason, it's like, oh my God, we should absolutely do that. And you're like, this is exactly what I packaged for you. But because somebody else came in and
right.
packaged it,
Yeah.
there are many other reasons, but
If you
yeah,
pay for an idea, you're more inclined to agree with it.
totally. But
And employees are different. That's a different relationship.
I have to push you a little bit on this.
Mm.
When you left his office, conference room, ping pong table, whatever it was at Tumblr, after he's, I need to let you go. I don't know how to do it. Like what was resting on your chest? Or were you relieved? What
Yeah, I guess I have to admit, putting myself in the place at the time, I was feeling a bit of a failure because we just went through the history of each of those things. They all make sense, right?
of
Individually.
course. Yeah.
But basically, you could look at all of those things and say, I made a series of bad moves. That's another way to look at it. I certainly had a series of, I don't necessarily want to say fails. Some of them just happened. I don't have any individual accountability for it. By with me, there's, there was certainly like a bad run of luck. This is one way to,
Yeah.
you have to look at it.
Yeah.
So I was feeling like, now after all that, after all those changes and those things, those ups and downs, what next? What would I do next? And I did actually consider another full-time job for a CEO that I really liked, really would have liked to work for. Um, I would have had to move to California to do the job. Um, and I thought hard about it. Like we thought hard about it. Like that's not just an individual decision,
Yeah.
something like that, and decided no, because I'm just not doing that. I didn't move to California for Google for all those years. I wasn't going to do it.
Did you have a feeling that this could be really cool, but if we move and it plays out the way the last few things play out, just never forgive myself?
You know what? It's not like that was like top of agenda, but it was definitely there.
Yeah.
Because yeah, if you make this big move and then it doesn't work out, then what did you do? Like at least these other things didn't cost me anything in that sense. But it was just that we love where we live. We love our house. Our kids were in school. It was just too much of a thing to do. And
Yeah, I get that.
yeah, it's just a job.
Yep.
And jobs are transitory, as I well knew. So
Yeah.
I did take that. But I also, at the same time, in that kind of deliberation about it, I was coming around to thinking like that consulting thing that I tried a few years ago wasn't a bad idea if it just had some
We're going to shape it a little
structure
bit.
to it.
Yeah.
Those short-term experiences I had gave me a sense of pattern recognition
Mm.
of what companies need when they're introducing HR for the first time or in some significant way. I had a vision coming together of what that company would do
Mm.
that was needed, that was out there in the market, and that I was one of the people able to do it.
Mm.
So it made sense in a way that kind of like just putting up a consulting sign a few years earlier did not.
And thus became Gray Scalable.
There it is. I had 2 engagements starting out of the gate. One of them was with Foursquare. One of them was with Media 6 Degrees was the name of the company at the time. One of them was referred to me by a colleague from Google, Kurt Abrahamson. Another one was run by a colleague from Google, Tom Phillips. And one of them was about hiring a sales organization. The other one was about compensation and organizational leveling. And as those 2 things were the kind of cornerstone of what Gray Scalable offered. That's what most of our kind of first time gigs were with new clients.
Yeah.
So that was always a big part of what we did.
And what year did you start your business?
2012.
Mm-hmm. And then we were introduced January 2014. We started working together.
Yeah. That's right. Olo was one of those fantastic clients. It was a great run for us too.
From the outside, it looked like rainbows and unicorns at Gray Scalable. It seemed so well put together. Everyone was just incredible to work with, just dream team magic. Does that resonate? Does it feel that way for you on the inside? Maybe I should ask, would your employees describe it that way?
They would, and they do. Many of the people who've been a part of that company have written me something just one-on-one to just say what it meant for them and what they accomplished there and how they felt about it.
From a user standpoint, why I kept coming back was I felt truly that you and your team cared, and really with other consultant type opportunities I had experienced in the past, it felt like the party dipped their toe into the water to feel the temperature. Whereas I felt like your team got suits on, put the swimming cap on, and came in the pool with us. And when it came to describing the culture, understanding who we wanted to hire, it just was like, holy hell, they truly understand our culture, what we're about. And generally speaking, everyone that you brought in from a hiring perspective was just like chef's kiss, perfect fit.
That's the beauty of it. We were truly a values-driven company, and everybody knew it when they joined. So we would always tell the truth, and we would always do what's best for the client. And that translates in different ways when you look at how you behave. But that means that if a client comes to us and says, can you help me with X? We would maybe ask some questions first, but we might say, we're not the best person. We're not the best people to help you with this, but I know somebody else I can connect you with. Why don't I do that? We would never take on something that we didn't feel like we were the people that you should hire for it.
Yeah.
We also had another one of those values was partnership. Like we had amazing partnerships. You were a top 5, like people we could really work together with to evolve things, make something new, take what we know and what they know and do something that together is that much better.
Yeah.
Those would be exciting to us too. But I think people who worked at Gray Scalable felt like they were able to do things professionally that they otherwise would not have been allowed to do or able to do.
Mm.
They were able to really stretch things in new directions and learn new things.
Mm.
And that they got to work with so many amazing people, both on my team and at our clients.
Yeah.
We tried hard to avoid getting into client engagements that we wouldn't enjoy or that we wouldn't feel aligned with. That was important to us to do that. And for most of the years of when we were in business, we were able to choose who we'd work with. We didn't have enough bandwidth to take on everybody. And the demand was high. So that, of course, that equation has changed. The demand is much lower, and it's lower for different reasons. Not only are the companies not growing, but as we were saying, HR has grown up a bit. So a lot of these companies do have internal resources that they wouldn't have thought of having 5, 8 years ago.
Yeah.
So it's changed, but yeah.
What happened when COVID hit? How was your business affected?
It was hit hard, like everybody. It was a punch in the face initially.
Yeah.
And of course, everyone was terrified for a while. But then we started to get through things. Like there was like PPP loans.
Yep.
There was many parts of the tech sector that were actually doing great, right? That this amplified their value to the market. Because of that, we found ways to do things. We started doing outplacement. We had recruiters who were sitting idle. So we actually started offering outplacement services to our clients. And the recruiters really enjoyed doing that. Just like I said before, when I laid people off professionally for the first time, and I could appreciate doing it because I felt good being needed to do something well for somebody. And so were our recruiters. That they were used to recruiting. They'd never done outplacement services, but they jumped into it as a way to manage through a tough time. So we did some different things. And then of course, it seemed like there was, looking back now, it's like the actual COVID part was a short time. I know it was longer than I'm thinking of it, but then the post-COVID boom, like the whole strength of tech, like really, then it got ridiculous. Like it was so hot. We passed 50 people at Gray Scalable, and we're still just struggling to keep up.
And then there was another side to that boom.
Yeah. And then things were so heated up. We were spending a lot of our energy on keeping our team. Like our team loved
because they were getting
jobs.
recruited away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
because
that was
salaries
always-
went insane, comp it went, it took me a minute to remember all that. Yeah. Yeah. It was out of control.
We had people reasonably.
Well, you
but at
had
that
to because you had all the comp data.
Yes, this is true. That time we were giving raises to many people on the team. Like we were becoming much more expensive as a business to run. And as that was happening, things started to turn.
Yeah.
People started to do the layoffs. And that just kept happening.
This is like
at like a slow
mid
rate.
to end of 2022.
Yeah.
Yeah.
21, 22. Yeah.
Yeah. I joined a new opportunity January 2023. And I came to you and team with proposal to do something in a matter of, I don't know, call it 45 days. I don't even know if it was that long. I went from being ready to pay the bill and execute the deal to, we've got to tighten the purse strings. So we have to scale back the project to, no, we can't do the project at all.
Yep.
And the Gray Scalable team's reaction was super supportive and like, we understand. But I remember being like, they're not affected. If this is happening to me, isn't this happening to all their other clients? And thinking, wow, they've got it figured out. They're going to last and they're invincible. I felt like you were invincible before all this, by the way. And then we had a call and you were like, hey, so I don't remember the timing specifically. You might remember better than I, but you were like, things are rough. And I'm trying to actively think about what to do. And do I continue? Do I scale way back? Do I sell? Do I just go down to just me? Do I close shop? And I was like, whoa, what? And feeling like stunned.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. That experience with you of that's what was happening with everybody. It's true. So we had a handful of clients that lasted to the end, but it's a handful. And for the most part, if you were in tech, you were not going to do any of that stuff. You certainly weren't going to be hiring. So that was off the table. And the other services that we did were just less urgent to people, less important. And they're basically like reining in their budgets. So yeah, I did decide to sell the company. This would be the time. We got deep into conversations with 2 companies, but ultimately those 2 companies were just as invested in the tech sector as we were. So when January 23 came and then Google did its layoffs, they were the holdout, remember, that was not doing it. And when they did it, that basically was the signal to every other company to go back and do it again.
Yeah.
Which is what happened.
Yeah. I remember
Make
you and
faster.
I talked about it almost became like you had to be a part of a club. If you hadn't done a layoff yet, like you better do it because everyone was doing it and it was what needed to happen.
Oh, you had no credibility as a leadership team if you hadn't done layoffs. That's exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah.
We got through the whole COVID thing with no layoffs. Like we managed it. And we came out of that on the other side, like a stronger team. We'd lived through it. Like we felt amazing. And then business was booming. Like it was such a ride. It was right to the top. And then this precipitous, like this decline, it was not precipitous. It was slow, actually. It was gradual on some level. It just drip.
Yeah.
And then, so those acquisitions fell through because of where we were in 2023. And then I was running out of time. I was going to run out of cash. Had to close.
What emotions did you experience through all that?
All of them. Oh, I still am. I've been in a grief state all along, honestly.
Do you play out scenarios? Like, how do you manage it in your head?
Yeah, I still do that. Like, I wish if maybe I should have, like, I'll still do those things, but I also know in my logical part of my brain that I considered all those things. Like, I really did. Not just me, like Dad, my co-founder and best business partner I've ever had. We tried everything. Like we really would have done anything. And I know the rest of the team felt the same way. They're like, what can we do? We'll do anything. But there wasn't a way. We couldn't find a way. Not with the ways that the market had changed. There's one thing I keep coming back to when I start to do should have done this. Maybe I should have thought of this. Is that I would not have started this business in this market. In 2012, there was a clear need for what I could do that I could do well. There was a need for my abilities and it made sense. I could see it. I could see the road. But now I would not start the company today.
Right.
It just doesn't make sense anymore in the way that it did then.
Right.
And it's partly because we were successful, by the way. Like we were, I'm not going to try to take more credit than we're due for this, but as a company, we were one of the things that was pushing people and talent forward in the tech ecosystem, right? We were doing that. The reason that so many companies really elevated HR was that they'd had such a good experience of it working with us and some others. Like I said, I'm not taking all the credit.
Yeah.
But we helped advance it to this state where they didn't need us the same way they used to need us.
Yeah. So because of that, if like economy and all the things were set aside, you might have closed the book anyway because everything had changed.
Maybe. It's hard to say, but I think it's more the way the two of those things interact. I think one of them alone would not have done it. The business getting difficult would not have done it all by itself. The HR becoming more widespread. It's the combination of the two that I think ultimately did us in. And while either one of those things probably wouldn't have.
Does this outcome with Gray Scalable affect your worthiness?
I don't know how to assess my worthiness. Am I still cocky? Is that what you're saying?
No, that's not what I was saying. Throughout your story and knowing you're someone who can pull your boots on, get back up. You're very optimistic and forward looking. And I'm curious if this set you back from that a bit.
Yeah. It set me back. Yeah. But I'm still going.
Yeah.
And
Do you feel successful regardless?
Yeah, I can't look back at all the things I've been able to do and the people that I've worked with and the teams I've had.
Yeah.
I just, which I do all the time, but I think of these things a lot because I'm still in it. I'm still living it. I can't not feel successful given all the things I've been able to do.
This is what I really want to point out. Some people go through these pits, these lows, and fixate and can't imagine themselves as successful because they feel like the current defines the whole. And I feel like you're more the exception than the rule in this. Whereas you're like, I don't want to discount. Of course, it was a huge blow, and I'm sure it affected you even more than you're willing to admit. But history and how it works, and it's informative into your future, and it will work out, and that there's more than the day-to-day job that defines who you are.
Mm.
But I think it's important to call that out so that the listener can find that for themselves. When I spoke to you, we spoke September 2022. I had to look it up. I approached you about being on the podcast. I remember it vividly because you were like, I don't know what I would talk about. I don't know. I don't want to mispaint you, but it was like, I don't know that I've effed up, which I think is very positive. And I don't mean to paint this in a way that you're not a screw up. You've never felt like that, and you don't have moments of reckoning or anything. I think everyone does, but you just wanted to be authentic and make sure that you didn't have some salacious, crazy story to share. And I said,
Well, I haven't.
and I said, okay, let's put a pin in it. Maybe and this was also before I had released any episodes. And I said, let's put a pin in it. I'll record some episodes and I'll circle back. And you got to me before I got to you, which I was shocked. I was like, what has changed? Obviously, Gray Scalable being one of those things, but it seemed to me that your maybe understanding of the premise of the podcast maybe had changed as well. I hadn't asked you this yet, but why?
Question. And I'm surprised to hear that in 2022 that I said I hadn't really fucked up, because I would think even at that point I would have said I've had my fuck ups.
Well, I think it was more that you didn't have anything that was
a story that needed to be told.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I was like, I don't mean to mispaint you. It wasn't like you were coming across as, I'm great. My career's been awesome. I felt like it was from a humble place, like, why me type thing.
No, I get it. I think, you know what it is? I think is I have been telling my story a lot. Like, I've been talking about me a lot. Like, people ask me a lot because of everything that's happened. And the feelings you had when you heard the news, everybody had that feeling, like, really? So I have been talking so much about this past year or two and everything that happened. And maybe it's my own form of therapy. I don't think I'm someone who talks about himself much, but I have been with this because it's just so much. And maybe I just felt now like I need to tell my story more.
Looking back at your career, what do you point to as the lowest low?
There may have been times that I fell down, like we just went through those ups and downs, but none of them felt as strong as this felt. This was my company that I built, that I did nothing but build. So that was having your company that you work at go out of business is one thing. Having your company that you created is very different.
I have a few rapid fire questions. How do you define success?
Being happy with what you do.
What was your dream job as a preschooler or kindergartner?
A doctor.
What about your path not taken? What is that?
I didn't do the musical thing that I thought I would. That was a really important thing to me. It still is in many ways. I've been super fortunate to pass that along to my kids, who are both amazing musicians.
Oh, that's incredible.
Yeah. So I've enjoyed it in that way. Like, we've had a lifetime of music in my family.
That's cool. What 3 words would you use to describe your career?
Fun, meaningful, team-oriented.
What company on your resume has turned the most heads?
No, it's got to be Google.
I have 3 labels that I'd like you to apply to 3 of your jobs. Love, ultimate fun, skip.
Love is Gray Scalable. Ultimate fun, Patch. Skip, Tumblr.
Thank you so much for your time. It was a lot of fun.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of Effing Up. I'm your host, Deanne Reinert. If you enjoyed today's episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please subscribe on the platform you use to listen to podcasts. Share effing up with others, post about it on social media, and/or leave a rating and review. Until next time, count your perceived failures as part of your path to success. After all, we're all effing up.